Thank you very much for being with us on this edition of the India Development Debate right here on ET Now. I'm Supriya Shrinate, and straight on to what continues to be a headline 24 hours later. It is an uneasy truce between the government and the RBI, a day after the marathon board meeting that saw some give and take from both sides. Sources tell ET Now that the composition of the proposed panel to deal with the surplus funds with the RBI will be finalised by Finance Minister Arun Jaitley and RBI Governor Urjit Patel. But even as the government continues its damage control efforts, experts say it is a good sign that truce emerged finally. Former Finance Minister Parippan Chidambaram did tell your channel that the government has acknowledged, although grudgingly, that the autonomy of the central bank is paramount. Earlier in the day, we also spoke to Niti Aayog Vice Chair Rajiv Kumar, and he admitted that a lot of ground still needs to be covered, and both the government and the RBI will have to work together to give industry and the economy the much needed boost. Despite the temporary peace, several sticky points remain to be ironed out, and that is going to be taken up in the next meeting. So is a ceasefire perhaps the best way to describe what has happened? Has this meeting redefined the relationship between the central bank and the central government? All of that and a lot more right here on the India Development Debate. Let me take this across to an expert panel that's joining us. We're getting politicians amidst the whist to talk about both sides of the political spectrum. Hitesh Jain, spokesperson of the BJP, Sanjay Jha represents the Congress party. Amongst the analysts and experts, I've got Rajiv Desai, political analyst and chairman and CEO, Comma Consulting, and of course Ratan Sharda, writer and political analyst. So thanks very, very much each one of you for being with us. And Rajiv Desai, if I may actually begin with you. The government and the RBI in many ways step back from the brink. What is the best way to describe what has happened? Have they smoked the peace pipe? Is this an uneasy truce? Because many people thought that to come back from the point of a standoff which seemed to have no return, what really transpired? Is it the political optics that at least made the government step back at this stage?
Well, I have to tell you the truth. I think that the whole business about the meeting was a big charade. It's very clear that the government cannot afford to alienate yet another Reserve Bank governor. That's number one. And so this elaborate debate about apportioning of surplus and so forth. But when the real fact of the matter, if you're really looking at autonomy for the Reserve Bank, then there should be, apart from the control over monetary supply, the Reserve Bank ought to have a say in the banking system. And as of today, its say is not quite what it should be, because, for example, it has no regulatory, it has no real control over appointments in the public sector banks and so forth. So I think it's all a charade. If you want real reform, you should start talking about how public sector banks also ought to be put under the purview of the Reserve Bank and not leave it to the finance ministry alone. That's one very definite kind of thing. And I think they should do one second. They should do what they did with the monetary policy. Yes.
Okay. Rajiv Desai, we're going to keep it crisp because I want to cover a lot of ground, and I'll request each of my panelists to keep the answers crisp and short, so there's plenty of ground that we can cover. And Hitesh Jain, while Mr. Desai says that this was a charade and the real question is who's supervising banks, I am really asking the moot point that has the government stepped back from the standoff and the point of brink because there are political optics. It's best to put this issue out of the front headline of the newspapers every day, especially when you've got elections to go forward to. You can't afford to be at war with your institutions. Is political optic the reason why we have what seemingly seems like a ceasefire today?
Well, frankly speaking, I think we are trying to gauge only from one side that who is stepping back and who is going ahead. It is not a question of stepping back and going ahead. It is a question of having a healthy discourse healthy discourse and debate on certain issues where government has one point of view, RBI has one point of view. So what does two matured people will do, or the two matured institutions will do? They will sit together, they will try to deliberate. Imagine a situation where people have got no point to contribute, and if it is a one-way traffic, then obviously there is, I mean, it will lead to some situation. So in a democracy, healthy debate is always should be welcome, and I think I'm glad that both the sides put across their points, and then the outcome of the meeting yesterday clearly reflects the consensus that was arrived and the maturity that was shown by both the sides.
No, I'm glad at least the politicians are talking a mature tone today than we had some of you do some time back. But Sanjay Jha, you know, just to be the devil's advocate, are we making a mountain of a molehill? I mean, what is the big deal? Because this could also be a simple case where RBI is responding to government concerns and the government in turn is respecting the operational autonomy of the central bank. Why can this issue not be looked at through this prism? Why are we getting political insinuations? Why are we getting one-upmanship and all of that involved?
Supriya, I think, will be extremely naive if one is going to believe that following yesterday's marathon discussions that there is, you know, some kind of a truce that has emerged. I think this is nothing but a cosmetic and extremely precarious situation that is going to persist for a while. Please go back to what Viral Acharya, the Deputy Governor of the RBI, said not too long ago. What did he say? He talked about the threat to the operational autonomy of the RBI. He talked about, you know, the likely punishment that the markets would give if the regulatory authority was going to be squeezed. I think that was, in my opinion, an extremely bold, intrepid statement that was concerned about the freedom to function of the Central Bank of India. Now, I can tell you this, that if you look at the track record of the Narendra Modi government, they believe in the breaking of heads, not the meeting of minds. I mean, you know, look at some of the institutions in our country as we talk, which are currently facing a virtual meltdown. The CBI is something that you know about, but there are other institutions like the Election Commission, the NIA, the CVC. These are constitutional democratic platforms of governance which today stand totally compromised. I think the RBI, frankly speaking, was the last bastion, and I'm happy that somewhere there is a pushback. But I will be a little circumspect here, Supriya. I'm not very optimistic. The true reason why Mr. Modi's government actually took over this, you know, entire step to impose Section 7 of the RBI Act was not to appropriate, but I would call it as misappropriate the reserves,
they didn't do that.
Reserves
of the
Sanjay
Jha, they didn't do that.
That was a real
we
political
didn't come
intention.
to that, which is a good
I
thing.
think this is a very sensitive issue.
I want to go to Ratan Sharda.
They didn't
Sanjay,
do that.
Just
They didn't do that because Mr. Acharya brought it in the public domain.
Okay, fair point, Sanjay, but we have to keep it short. Like I said in the beginning, I want to cover a lot of ground. Ratan Sharda, you know, taking a cue from
can you
what
please
the
give me
Congress
30
has said,
seconds to
taking a cue from
respond
what
to
Mr. Chidambaram
Sanjay
has
Jha?
said. I will come. Hitesh, give me a minute. I'm coming to you. Ratan Sharda, the relationship between the RBI and the central government is not one of subordinate and superior. They play different roles, they have different mandates, and do you believe that basic premise was forgotten when there was this war? And which is why we are seeing things unfold as they are.
For me, the Viral Acharya interview was actually a very bad way of, you know, talking to the government openly in the government, because bureaucrats are supposed to work, not to come on the field and start arguing and giving interviews. Be that be, in a democracy, it is very clear that political leadership leads the policy changes, and RBI as a custodian of the monetary policy has to guide the government, at the same time see what government policies are. So it has also been said by Manmohan Singh that RBI should ultimately work as per the government saying. So to say that there is a war or something, that is, you know, misusing the whole idea. It was brought into open by RBI, it was not becoming of them, but as a policy, like all government leaders across the world say, ultimately political leadership is a load to lead. It is a fiscal policy, there is monetary policy cannot overturn the fiscal policy. We know how tightly we have nearly throttled the MSME in the name of inflation, knowing that inflation of the, we talk of the consumer inflation, has nothing to do with the inflation that comes out of the industry. We are trying to shrink the economy in the name of credit freeze, and big corporates can run away with the money. big industry can run away the money, PSU can run away the money, but MSME are throttled, not even getting credit in very proper good rates. Their credit is never readjusted.
No. Ratan Sharda, what really throttled MSMEs is not inflation.
We are running monetary policy.
Ratan Sharda, if I may please come in. What throttled MSMEs is not inflation. What throttled MSMEs is demonetization. And let's not lose sight of that. I will cover that in just a bit. No, 1 second. Let's not. I mean, I am an economic journalist. I've done my research. What throttled MSMEs was this? But anyways, hold that thought. You are right in saying that Viral Acharya perhaps, stepped over his brief. Talking to the government and speaking truth to power is all very good, but to wash your dirty linen in public is not what technocrats or even bureaucrats are expected to do. But Hitesh, the question really is that the insinuation that one gets and the implicit reference multiple times to the board almost seems to suggest that there is an acknowledgement of their role and their influence. There seems to be no denying that anymore. My question to you is, can RBI be a board-run institution? Can the board dictate terms to technical experts, the kinds who run the RBI, the governor, the deputy governor, and all of those people there? Because, I mean, look at the people who've headed RBI. You've got an IG Patel, a Manmohan Singh, a C. Rangarajan, a Bimal Jalan, a Raghuram Rajan. These are men of exemplary reputation worldwide. Are you telling me that board members can talk down to them?
Supriya, let's come to Manmohan Singh, since you named as one of the governor, illustrious governor of RBI. Now, what did Manmohan Singh said in his 2014 book? That there is always a give and take between RBI and government. He also emphasized that finance minister is superior to RBI governor, and RBI governor cannot defy the finance minister. And if he disagrees, I mean, in fact, he went ahead and said what happens when he disagrees with the government. Now, the fact that this board has not come as of now, the board has been in existence for so many years. So, what is happening over here? You are having the debates, you are having the policies. Ultimately, in the board, if the board is constituted, the board is not constituted on a paper. I can understand that if the board, the government has just taken a decision and constituted a board, and we are getting into the decision how the RBI has to govern, that can be an altogether different issue. What we are discussing, a board which has been in existence since the inception of RBI, at this stage you cannot discuss. And if you have a board, the board is not on the paper, they have to discuss. So, they have to discuss the issues. In fact, even if you look at Manmohan Singh, who has played the roles on both the sides, he has used as strong as language that RBI governor cannot defy the finance minister. He himself has narrated so many instances.
Hitesh.
And the differences, it is not the first time.
Hitesh.
We all know between YB Reddy and Chidambaram. We know about Mr. Manmohan Singh and Mr. Pranab Mukherjee also. Such debates and
those were intellectual. No, Hitesh, let me come in there. Hitesh, what you're referring to are 2 points of view, and I agree with you that there have been differences in the past, but there have been intellectual differences. Please don't forget that these differences are intellectual in nature. Here we were talking about really dirty linen. We were talking about Section 7 being invoked, which would have forced the RBI to do things. So let's not lose sight of the fact. But your point well taken, that any elected, no Hitesh, let me talk. Any elected government at any point in time obviously has more weightage, should have more voice, because you know what, they are elected and they can be booted out. Absolutely right on that point. But I think where the problem is, and Mr. Desai, if I may come to you, the RBI should have listened to the board. The board has a fiduciary responsibility. The RBI should have listened to the board. They should have heard the board out. They should have absorbed everything that the board said, but decided things on their own and at their own time. If you look at the press release, it's extremely terse. Every decision is being taken by the board. I think as somebody who watches central bank, there should be serious concern about this.
Well, I think that's a very sort of a India-centric political view, which is what unfortunately these politicians are famous for. The fact of the matter is that the governor of the Reserve Bank is also an intellectual and an international figure. So, and India is one of the largest economies in the world with huge reserves. So the signals that are being sent are very important. So when you decide to jerry-rig a board and trying to slap down the governor and the technocrats who run the bank, you're sending a signal that's not a very happy signal. People are going to wonder what kind of a banana republic type situation has arisen in India, because I think nobody, this is the tragedy of this political situation here, that nobody looks to the world. You can't just thump your chest and say, I'm a world player, I'm the fastest growing economy in the world, and then say go to hell to everybody else. No, everybody's looking at you very carefully, and if you're behaving silly, and if you're behaving in a manner that befits a small economy in a backward area, that's a different issue. But you're a big company, you're a big country with lots of money, with lots of growth, with everything. And you are being therefore misled and misguided
I want to
by
get
the
down
political vision of the current government, which is a question.
Okay. Okay, I want to get down to the specific issues, and I will talk about reserves. You know, before this board meeting began, there was a very worrying phrase that everybody was using, which is raiding RBI reserves. Now, truth be told, the reserves of the RBI are actually equity and assets of the government sitting with the RBI's balance sheet. Let there be no two ways about it at all. Former governors, existing governor, everybody has accepted that. So it's not as if this money has been created by the RBI. This is the government's equity parked with the RBI for a rainy day. It should not be used for political purposes. It should not be used to plug fiscal deficits. It should not be used if it's going to stoke inflation. And Ratan Sharda, on that count, there has been a committee that has been set up. So no two sides have won. If at all, if you ask me, I think the RBI has given in, because from a point of saying reserves is our prerogative to now setting up a committee, you know, the RBI has backed off. But is setting up a committee the most foolproof way of taking no decision? That's the practice world over. We have been no exception.
First of all, let me just, criticize Rajiv Desai's use of word like banana republic, talking of Indian economy not linked to the world economy. Last 4 years has seen the maximum integration of the world economy with the Indian economy. We have seen it acknowledged by the various international institutions in terms of creditworthiness, in terms of ease of doing business and all that. Mr. Desai, please, please, Rajiv Desai, please.
Stop putting
Let
words
me have my
in my
side and
mouth.
disturb you.
Okay,
nonsense. That is your way of talking. You're so snooty. You're so snooty. You're so rubbish kind of word.
No,
Please
Rajiv
ask him
Desai,
to keep
let Ratan
control
Sharda
on his
make his
tongue.
Point, and I will come back
He should
to you
not
for
use
a
such
rebuttal.
loose words. He behaves so snootily with the
Ratan
people.
Sharda, go ahead
He
and make
believes
your
he's
point.
God's
I will
own
go
man.
to Rajiv Desai for a rebuttal.
Yes, my point.
This is not one of those shows, and this is not one of those channels where I let my guests get into mudslinging. Please make your point. I will go back to him for a rebuttal.
So Rajiv Desai cannot use such snooty language. Yes, you ask your panel not to use snooty language. My point is every institution needs some kind of revision, some kind of relook at working. So if there is relook at the working of RBI with the changing economic scenario and the changing realities of the world, it is a welcome step. Yes, the committee should not be used to delay the process, but committees should be formed to relook at the all kind of policy issues that come up over time, whether it's RBI, whether it's governor's role, whether state governments, everywhere we need to keep on reinventing. If constitution can be amended various times as per the need of the society, why can't RBI functionality be looked into? So whether it says, I don't think it's one versus the other, it's just sitting together and trying to figure out how to govern better. And I would respectfully tell you that to say that MSME died in the demonetization day, I have personal experience of MSME not getting credit becoming costly, RBI sitting over banks, now having lost money in the other banks, they are trying to arm twist the smaller banks. So there is a lot of things that are happening in terms of audit, in terms of failure of their own responsibility. It must
Mr.
be
Ratan Sharda, you track the Indian economy. Are you telling me that MSME did not get a body blow during demonetization? Is that what you're suggesting? What are you talking about? MSMEs were the worst victims of demonetization.
They recovered from it, madam.
Some of them shut shop and they haven't recovered since then.
Don't try to belittle somebody's opinion. Supriya, with all due respect, don't try to belittle somebody else's views. I have my views. They recovered from that body blow.
I'm not belittling your views. All I'm saying is that MSMEs were very badly hit during demonetization.
Yes.
Fair point. I agree with you on the point that the RBI misread the inflation. One second, Mr. Sharda. I agree with you on the point that RBI grossly misread inflation, which is why they did not reduce rates when they should have reduced rates. So on that count, there needs to be greater accountability for the RBI as well. There is no denying that. But anyways, I'll come to the Congress party, and one of the issues that has been criticized as far as the RBI is concerned, Sanjay Jha, is the point of the capital reserve ratio, the capital adequacy ratio, sorry. And I think some people of your party, including the former Finance Minister Padappan Chidambaram, has said that this should have been just done by the technical division of the RBI. Why did it get the government involved in all of that? Now, truth be told, there comes a time in policy making where things have to be reviewed. The last committee that reviewed the Basel III norms for India happened in 2013. 5 years later, don't you agree there is a review that's required? And what is wrong if the board wants that review to happen?
Supriya, I'll once again tell you this with complete confidence, that the reason why the government has been overbearing, almost intimidating with the RBI, was not on account of this, liquidity crisis or a window of lending to be, kind of enhanced for the MSME sector, or to suddenly worry about, stressed balance sheets. These have been there for the last 4.5 years. I mean, isn't it ironical, by the way, a paradox, that the government which has allowed the NPAs to balloon from 2,63,000 crores to over 10 lakh crores in 4 years is now telling the RBI that we should, remove certain banks from the PCA, prompt corrective action.
I think
Sanjay,
the prompt corrective action.
Sanjay, no.
So you are basically,
can
I answer your question? Supriya, you're being unfair by allowing the BJP to interrupt you.
I'll come to you.
In your channel,
complete
this
your
doesn't
point
happen.
quickly. No, Sanjay, complete your point very quickly. Keep it to the point, please.
Yeah.
Please don't go on another issue.
Point is,
hurry up.
Yeah. So my point is that all the other issues raised by the government were a smokescreen, a subterfuge. The real political intention of Narendra Modi's government is to appropriate or misappropriate the reserves of the RBI because they are worried about their fiscal deficit. Maybe Narendra Modi wanted to, get into another populist gambit by trying to throw up, some kind of sops before the elections. I mean, they have been financially profligate.
Okay,
I mean, the economy has not done well, and it is a fact. Even tax collections have been dismal.
Okay.
So I think we need to be worried about
Hitesh Jain, I'll come to you. And Hitesh, it's not just Sanjay. Sanjay, you've made your point. You can't keep carrying on, no? Okay, Sanjay Jha, hold that thought. While Sanjay Jha believes, and this is also a view that some people, have espoused and have, been very vocal about, which is that, is the need for reserves really coming in from a fiscal fault? The fact that there will be a weak fisc and you would want to bridge it. In a pre-election year, it's always difficult to imagine that the government would want to do something of meaningful existence or importance, and which is why could this be a pre-poll bonanza that the government would want to dole out? Is this going to stoke inflation? Those were some of the fears. But on that count, a committee has been set up, and I think all of us need to rest our oars on that. But Hitesh, the point continues to be that people were doubting the intention. That issue has been set to rest by the formation of this committee.
Supriya, first, what Sanjay Jha said, falsehood cannot be substitute for failed politics of Rahul Gandhi. Look at the language with him Rahul Gandhi used yesterday. Show him the place. I mean, is this a language a matured politician will make such kind of a language? And this reflects in the tone and tenor of the response of the Congress party when they speak. Now, we are all aware when he spoke about 2.5 lakh and 10 lakh crore NPA, that when the government inherited, they were told that there is an NPAs of 2.5 lakh. It was only when the asset quality review, that also the governor appointed by the then UPA government, Raghuram Rajan, in that asset quality review that was taken, it came to the light that the NPAs are 8.5 lakh crore. So they completely hid all the facts. So we all know the correct facts. So what happened? So ultimately what is happening? We have to understand the perspective. The government is, the point of the government is,
Supriya, I have to say something,
maintain
please.
high growth rate and for the job creation, you require liquidity. And to ensure that there is a liquidity in the system, the government has made various observations, and that is the reason you are seeing different deliberations and different debates. Now, to take all these points to just suit the election agendas of the failed politics which Mr. Rahul Gandhi does, this is not the way. RBI is not the institution where you can come and play the politics. We have our arenas, campaigning is happening, we can in that campaigning we can use this mudslinging, but certainly don't bring RBI.
How is it a fair point?
Have an intellectual debate rather than having this outrageous debate where you can throw any numbers and get away.
I'm sorry, you're done with your time. Rajiv Desai,
excuse me.
No, 1 second. Why is everybody getting so agitated on this show? I don't understand. 1 second, Rajiv Desai, just to put the record straight, we are discussing the RBI government board meeting. It was a very crucial board meeting. My own sense is this is not peace. My own sense is this is ceasefire. Why are we getting so agitated? This is about the future of institutional autonomy in this country. Let's not get so agitated. But Rajiv Desai, I will come to you. And some part of what Hitesh says is right, that why is everything being given a political overtone, a political color to it, even as far as the reserves are concerned? Why use the word raid? The government can have a point of view on this that was put forward on the table, and the RBI in its wisdom or otherwise has decided there will be a committee that is going to look into it. Let us now all have faith in the people who will be a part of this committee.
No. Well, actually, I don't think that could well be, but my issue is very simple. This is one more example of the failed governance of this government. Why? I'll tell you why. Because they know that they can't swallow another resignation or another firing of a Reserve Bank governor in a global sense. So they've had to do all this charades of the committee, of the board and all of this while having to restrain themselves. So the fact is, no, I'm not speculating. Will you please keep quiet? The fact is that they haven't been able to have their way on this. So this elaborate smoke screen has been set up, which has nothing to do with monetary policy or banking regulations or anything of that sort. This is what I started out to say, that they were unable to have their way with Dr. Urjit Patel and his colleagues because it would have looked very bad globally. And and this is therefore another failure of their governance model. It's a very simple assessment. It's not a partisan assessment. It's an assessment of reality. What the world is saying. Look at what Moody's has said today.
Rajiv Desai, you made that point earlier.
What has Moody's said today?
Okay, I take your point on board. But I'm going to go across to Ratan Sharda. And Ratan Sharda, I have a question on the MSME bid because we spoke about it earlier, sir. We can differ on the impact of demonetization, but today a ratings agency like Moody's says that such relaxations have largely been unsuccessful in addressing the underlying stress. There is a warning signal that's coming in from one of the most, respected ratings agencies, Moody's, on this. Can we afford to let this dilution happen and see some NPA formation there?
See, world over, the world bodies have some positive impact, some have negative impact. We cannot take their word as word of God, whether it's it's appreciation of any government or criticism of any government. We have to look at our own way how our economy works. We have to look at how MSMEs work here, what is their skill level, what kind of taxation they do, what kind of worker relationship they have, how much employment they generate. So considering that employment is a major issue and MSME are the biggest economy generators, look at China. They have been supporting all their industry completely with the government funding. While the industry is losing, while the manufacturing is losing edge world over, they are being totally supported by the government in every possible way, from the largest industry to smallest industry. They have not fallen away. So my first duty is to the industry to survive and make some money and let their employment generate and not talk. This guy who keeps on smirking, I don't understand why he comes on the panels. How can you say Urjit Patel is going to resign? On what ground you are saying that? Did he come to your home and tell you that he is going to resign? Let the debate be sensible, Mr. Rajiv Desai. He is not some other TV where he can make any kind of remarks. We are making serious comments. So please control yourself.
Fair point. I am glad you are pointing that out.
What
I'm
serious
glad
comment are you making?
Because at ET now we do serious debates. The show is called, one second, the show is called India Development Debate, and the reason why we are discussing this is because the autonomy of the central bank and its relationship with the central government is extremely crucial to fiscal and monetary policy and to development. Let's not lose sight of why we are doing this debate, and which is why the debate needs to be done in a certain tone and tenor. Gentlemen, please respect that. But I have to take a quick last round of questions. And Sanjay Jha, whatever this controversy may be, the argument is that at many levels, this does point to a redefinition that's required of the RBI's functional autonomy, a redefinition that's required of where and how should the government intervene and not intervene. In that sense, do you believe the time has come to review some of the existing laws that govern the RBI?
Well, you know, I think full credit needs to be given to Mr. Acharya for forcing a transparent debate. You know, the reason why we are having, you know, this very animated discussion on a very popular channel like yours is because Mr. Acharya went public with his apprehensions of the way the central government of Narendra Modi was looking at RBI's operational freedom. And I think that is a very pertinent point. It concerns us all because the RBI does look at inflation targeting that affects the common man. And there are members on the RBI board from the private sector who may have a very different view. And to have the RBI governor respond or take orders from them is, in my opinion, extremely compromising of the independence of the RBI governor. I'll give you one example, Supriya. Jerome Powell, who was appointed by Donald Trump as the US Fed chief, you know, there are a lot of talks that, you know, Donald Trump is not happy with the talks that he's talking about raising interest rates in America. But that doesn't mean that, you know, he's clipping the wings or anybody can interfere with Mr. Powell's decisions. I think India needs to understand we are a global, you know, integrated economy. The world is looking at us. And I think Mr. Rajiv Desai is absolutely on the point that, you know, don't make India a laughing stock. I mean, we have global investors, we have FDI, people are buying stocks in Indian companies. Please do not make them look at India as some kind of a country which is run by a tin pot dictator with an authoritarian and autocratic tendency.
Sanjay Jha, you know, while I am the biggest votary for institutional autonomy, I don't think one RBI board meeting is making us a laughing stock in the world. So, in any case, I know that politicians are given to hyperventilation, but, you know, Hitesh, you've been you wanted to say that the two should work together and all of that. Let me ask you a question. Put your hand on your heart and tell me, December 14th, when the RBI board meets next, and the two contentious issues about NBFC liquidity, which surprisingly missed the bus this time around, and subcommittees to supervise RBI happens, will things be hunky-dory? Is that how we're going to, you know, is this the ceasefire that has happened and the trigger will be the 14th of December?
Well, people have been speculating the resignation, and far more graver in the media. There has been a lot of speculation that is happening. There was a lot of speculation about 19th. There was a lot of speculation about the previous board meeting, and people are now speculating about December 14th. I can assure you, both the sides are mature sides. They will sit together, they will discuss, they will deliberate, and they will come to the fair point. Nobody, I mean, like, Congress can continue to do its politics on the serious institution like RBI. Good luck to them. But as far as the government is concerned, and as far as the RBI side is concerned, and what we saw yesterday in the decisions that were taken, you will see much more maturity, and you will see a much more give and take, which should be there in any institution. And I don't think, I mean, there's going to be any laughing stock. As far as, since we are on the laughing stock, we know which leader is the laughing stock of the whole world. Like.
Okay. No, let's not get petty here. Hitesh, that's what I did not want you to do. You made an interesting point there. The fact that you got petty in the end is what I don't like about politicians.
Tell him to stick to
they
the
come
point.
on important issues, and look at where you ended this debate. Anyways, no, it is not driving home the point for me. But anyways, I think we've completely breached our time here. Thank you very much for being with us on this edition of the India Development Debate. RBI versus the government, the board meeting, how crucial it was, institutional autonomy, all of that is important. RBI perhaps can do with a little less capital. What it can't do without is credibility. And also a gentle reminder to politicians on both sides of the political spectrum here. RBI is not CBI. It isn't just another institution in the country. RBI is one of India's most premier institutions that commands world respect. It is an impeccable institution with great reputation. Let us not make politics destroy all of that. Thank you very much for being with us on this edition of the India Development.